Welcome back to Energy Bites, where I talk about all things energy for a happier and healthier life. Today we're diving into something that many people experience but don't always recognize, and that's the emotional harm caused by overused phrases like just be positive, stay strong, and everything happens for a reason. In this video, you'll learn what spiritual bypassing actually is, how it affects your healing journey, and what it does to your energy field. And finally, we'll go through the steps on how to move beyond surface level positivity into deep, lasting transformation. Let's get started. Spiritual bypassing is the habit of using spiritual language, ideas, or practices to avoid dealing with uncomfortable emotions or painful experiences. It often shows up in places where personal growth is being discussed, in books, courses, or even conversations with friends who are trying to live more consciously. It sounds enlightened on the surface. People might say things like, everything happens for a reason, or stay positive when someone is struggling, grieving, or angry. These phrases aren't necessarily wrong, but the timing and intent matter. When they're used to shut down, bury, or skip over real emotional pain, they become a form of avoidance. Spiritual bypassing can be subtle. It often comes from the belief that negative emotions should be pushed away or avoided because they lower your frequency, somehow making you less spiritual. But real spirituality includes the full spectrum of human experience. Pain, anger, and grief. These aren't signs that you're failing. They're invitations to look deeper. Bypassing happens when someone clings to ideas of peace or enlightenment without actually addressing what's going on beneath the surface. Instead of facing the discomfort, they cover it up with a spiritual concept and move on, thinking they've grown. But real growth doesn't come from pretending. It comes from presence. Every emotion you feel exists for a reason. Emotions are part of the human guidance system. We often categorize them as positive or negative, but in truth, they're all just different frequencies of energy, each carrying information, each moving us toward awareness, balance, and growth. Anger can show us where boundaries have been crossed. Grief reveals what we value. Fear alerts us to potential threats. Joy shows alignment. Love brings connection. Every emotion has a message, and when we honor all of them, we stay energetically in flow. The problem starts when we identify too heavily with emotions, like believing, I am angry, instead of, I am feeling anger right now. This small shift in perspective allows us to observe our feelings, rather than becoming consumed by them. When you observe an emotion, you create space. You start to see that it's just energy moving through you, not something that defines you. Interestingly, the lower frequency emotions often serve as a contrast that makes the higher frequency emotions even more powerful. For example, when you've truly felt grief, the moments of joy become more profound. If you've known despair, hope hits deeper. These emotions work together. The depth of one allows for the expansion of another. Avoiding the so-called negative emotions flattens the emotional spectrum. But embracing them without wallowing or identifying amplifies your capacity to feel, to grow, and to truly connect. That's how energy works. Movement and awareness create transformation. Telling someone to just be positive may seem like helpful encouragement, but in reality, it often dismisses the complexity of what they're feeling. Imagine someone going through the loss of a loved one. They're devastated. They're overwhelmed, maybe even angry. And then a well-meaning friend says, try to stay positive, focus on the good memories. While the intention might be kindness, the result is often the opposite. The grieving person is left feeling like their pain is inconvenient or unwelcome. They might start questioning themselves, wondering if they're too negative or not strong enough. Positivity becomes harmful when it's used to avoid emotional discomfort. It doesn't allow space for real healing. When people feel like they have to push their pain aside in order to be accepted or seen as spiritually evolved, they start suppressing important parts of themselves. And that suppression doesn't just disappear. It lingers in the body, in the mind, and in the energy field. Over time, this can lead to emotional numbness, anxiety, fatigue, and even illness, because energy that isn't acknowledged or processed becomes stagnant. There's a psychological layer to this as well. Many people lean on positivity because they were never shown how to deal with emotional discomfort. From a young age, we're often taught to hide emotions that make others feel uncomfortable. Don't cry, calm down, be strong. As a result, emotional pain becomes something we fear, avoid, or feel ashamed of. So when someone is in distress, the instinct is to fix it quickly with a positive statement. Not because it helps them, but because it helps us avoid feeling helpless or uncomfortable. On a deeper level, this creates a split inside the person receiving the message. They feel something very real, but they're told to deny it. That split becomes internal conflict. They might smile on the outside while carrying unresolved pain within. And that disconnect can be exhausting. We have to recognize that emotions are not problems to be solved. They're messages to be listened to. Pushing them away with positivity creates emotional tension that gets buried and over time begins to distort how we relate to others and even ourselves. Now, from an energetic perspective, unprocessed emotions become blockages. Energy is meant to move. When we feel and release emotions, energy flows. When we suppress them, energy stagnates. Think of your energy system like a river. When grief, anger, or fear aren't allowed to move through, it's like dumping debris into that river. Eventually, the flow slows down. You might feel tired all the time, uninspired, anxious for no reason, or even physically unwell. Each energy center in the body is connected to emotional themes. The heart center deals with love and loss. The solar plexus holds personal power and unresolved anger. The throat holds truth and self-expression. When these areas are weighed down by emotions we won't acknowledge, they stop functioning the way they should. Energy healing techniques like sweeping, clearing, and energizing can absolutely help, but only when we're also willing to look at why the energy is stuck. Otherwise, it's like mopping the floor without fixing the leak. Let's take a few everyday examples. Imagine someone is recovering from a difficult breakup. Instead of being allowed to process the sadness, they're told to be grateful for the experience or just focus on loving yourself. While those things are true, they skip over the emotional reality that the person is hurting, maybe feeling rejected, maybe questioning their worth. Being told to be positive in that moment can feel like a dismissal. Or think of someone dealing with workplace stress or burnout. They're overwhelmed, they're exhausted, but instead of support, they're told, just think about how lucky you are to have a job. Again, the message is that their discomfort doesn't belong, that they should override their own needs with gratitude. These examples aren't extreme. They happen every day in subtle and not so subtle ways, and they teach people to stop trusting their emotions, which is the exact opposite of healing. Real healing begins with honesty. It starts by acknowledging what you feel without judgment. If you're angry, it's okay to be angry. If you're grieving, your tears are not a weakness, they're a release. Healing means letting the truth come to the surface so it can be processed, cleared, and integrated. This is where energy healing can play a powerful role. Techniques like pranic healing don't just remove emotional energy. They create the space for you to feel those emotions safely and then release them when you're ready. It's not about forcing yourself to move on, but supporting yourself while you move through. Shadow work is also essential here. It's the process of looking at the parts of yourself you've hidden or rejected, not to fix them, but to understand and bring them into the light. That's when real transformation happens, not by skipping over the hard parts, but by moving through them with awareness. So how do you start? Here are a few steps you can take to begin the healing process. Name what you're feeling. Be honest and specific. Instead of saying, I'm fine, or I'm just tired, try, I'm disappointed because I felt ignored, or I'm scared because I don't know what will happen next. You can do this by writing in a journal or speaking out loud when you're alone. This act of naming emotions is the first step to validating your own experience and clearing confusion in your energy. Create space for reflection. Set aside 10 to 15 minutes where you won't be disturbed or interrupted. Sit in silence or with calming music and simply observe what you're feeling without trying to change it. You might ask yourself, what part of me needs attention right now? This is not about fixing, it's about noticing. And over time, this practice helps to build emotional resilience. Use your breath to stay grounded. You can take slow and deep breaths into your belly. Try inhaling for 4 counts, holding for 4, and then exhaling for 4 counts. And do this for a few minutes. When emotions feel overwhelming, your breath reconnects you with your body and keeps your energy rooted. Think of it as a reset button that calms your nervous system and allows stuck energy to move. Get support. Healing doesn't mean doing it all on your own. Talk to someone you trust, whether it's a friend, a therapist, or an energy healer. Sometimes just having someone witness your experience without judgment is enough to begin shifting the energy. If you're not ready to talk, even just writing a letter that you don't send to express your feelings can start the release process. Be patient. Emotional patterns often take years to form, and they don't dissolve overnight. Some days you'll feel progress, other days you'll feel stuck, and that's normal. Treat yourself with the same compassion you would offer a close friend. Celebrate small wins and allow setbacks without shame. Remember, consistency and kindness are more powerful than force. Positivity has value, but it has to come from a grounded place. It should never be used to override reality. Real positivity comes after honesty, not instead of it. When you've allowed yourself to feel, process, and release what's been weighing you down, then positivity becomes something solid. It's not fake or forced, it's the result of integration. You can absolutely be hopeful, grateful, and optimistic, but you can also be real, raw, and reflective. These things aren't opposites, they're partners, and when you honor both, your energy becomes clearer, your body feels lighter, and your life becomes more aligned. Healing isn't about perfection, it's about being honest with yourself, one layer at a time. Every emotion you face is a doorway to a deeper understanding of who you are. The more you embrace what you've been taught to hide, the more powerful and whole you become. So, if you've ever felt like you're too sensitive, too emotional, or not positive enough, I want you to know this. Your truth is not a weakness, it's your strength. The work you do to feel, to heal, and to grow is sacred. So keep showing up and keep trusting the process. You're becoming a better version of yourself with every experience and emotion you face, the good ones and the bad. Thank you so much for watching. If you found this video helpful, please don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to my channel for more inspiring content. Until next time, take care, be true to yourself, and always stay inspired.